Your robin knows something you do not. It knew before you noticed it was gone. And by the time you realize why your robin disappears in summer, you will understand that it was not an accident. It made a choice. And some of the things you have been doing in your garden, things you thought were helpful, were the exact reason it had to go further away. I want to explain that. But first, I need to tell you about something that happens at the end of this video. Because near the end, I will tell you about a specific window of time, just a few weeks in late September, when your robin comes back to observe your garden and makes a decision. A quiet decision. And that decision determines whether it stays for another year or whether it chooses somewhere else. I will tell you exactly what it is looking for in that window and what you can do right now to make sure it chooses you. There are 5 things happening when your robin vanishes. And reason 5 is the one most people never think about because it happens in silence and it looks exactly like abandonment. If this kind of story about the birds in your garden is the kind of thing you come back to, you might want to subscribe to The Robin Files. A new story every week. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is something your robin will never tell you directly. Number 1. The silence of the feathers. Every year, between June and August, your robin enters a phase that most garden visitors never know about. It is called post-breeding molt, and what it means is this. The feathers your robin has been wearing since last autumn, the ones it used to fly, to fight, to court, to sing, begin to fall out, not all at once. One by one, flight feathers on the wing, tail feathers, the small delicate ones around the face. And while new feathers grow in their place, your robin cannot fly at full speed. It cannot turn as sharply. It cannot escape a sparrowhawk the way it could in April. So it does something very specific. It goes quiet. No song from the high branch. No bold appearances on the lawn in broad daylight. No confident visits to the feeder in the open air. Your robin retreats into the dense parts of the garden, the thick ivy, the hedge that has not been cut yet, the shadowed corner behind the shed. It spends 4 to 6 weeks moving through these spaces almost invisibly. This period is sometimes called molt silence, and it is one of the most vulnerable stretches in a robin's year. Not because something is wrong, but because something necessary is happening. And the garden that felt familiar, the open lawn, the exposed feeder, the clear sightlines, that garden suddenly feels dangerous during molt. What your robin needs in this moment is not less of your presence. It is more of the right kind of cover. But that is not the only reason it seems to have disappeared. Because reason number 2 is quieter still, and it involves something you may not even know was happening in your garden. Number 2. The secret in the hedge. At some point in late May or early June, your robin became apparent. You may have seen the signs, a little more urgency in its movements, longer absences, a tightness to its energy that was different from the easy confidence of March. Or you may not have noticed at all. Because robins are extraordinarily careful about what they reveal when they are raising young. And now, with the fledglings out of the nest, something changes completely. Fledglings leave the nest before they can fly properly. They spend their first 2 weeks on the ground, or near it, crouched in the dense vegetation at the base of the hedge, hidden under the ivy, pressed still and silent against the dark soil. They are not abandoned. They are waiting. And their father is nearby, moving quietly, making careful, low trips to feed them. But here is what changes the moment those fledglings are out in the open. Every visible trip your robin makes, every appearance at the feeder, every arrival on the lawn, draws a line. A line that a cat can follow, a line that a magpie will read, a line that a sparrowhawk already knows how to use. So the father robin stops being visible. He stops coming to the places you recognize him. He moves through the garden like a rumor. You stand at the kitchen window and see nothing. And you wonder what you have done wrong. But the truth is, in that exact moment, he is doing the most important thing he has done all year. He is protecting something you cannot see. The day your robin disappeared from the feeder may have been the exact day his fledglings left the nest. And every time you walked out to the open lawn, or left the feeder standing in full view, you made his job a little harder. This is not a criticism. It is just something worth knowing. Because number 3 will tell you what happens next and it is something most people find unexpectedly strange. Number 3. The territory that forgets you. By late August, the fledglings have learned to feed themselves. The father's job is finished. And something shifts in the biology of the garden. Your robin, the one that followed you in April, the one that sang from the fence post while you dug the vegetable bed, that robin enters a kind of reset. Because in September and October, European robins re-establish their territories from scratch. Not as a pair, alone. The female will find her own patch of ground and hold it through winter, separate from the male, even if they bred together just months before. And the male will do the same. Each of them moving through their territory quietly, deliberately, learning it again as though for the first time. This is the moment the robin that belonged to your garden comes back to the edge of it and looks. And what it sees will determine everything. But before I tell you about that window, I want to tell you about something you may be doing right now that is working against you. Because number 4 involves something most people believe is helpful, but in summer, it is almost exactly the wrong thing. Number 4. The feeder that drives them away. If your feeder is full right now, in July or August, it is probably full of the wrong things. Seeds, peanuts, sunflower hearts. These are winter foods. High energy, long-lasting, designed for the cold months when nothing else is available. In summer, they create a different problem. They attract large numbers of other birds, especially greenfinches. And where greenfinches gather in dense groups around shared food, a disease called trichomoniasis spreads. The RSPB updated its guidance in 2026 to ask gardeners to pause seeds and peanuts between May and October for exactly this reason. But for your robin, the issue is different. Your robin does not eat from the hanging feeder. It eats invertebrates, earthworms, beetles, caterpillars found under leaves. And in summer, if your lawn has been dry for several weeks, if the soil has hardened in the heat, the earthworms go deep, out of reach. Your robin stands on the dry grass and finds nothing. And it begins to move. Not because it has left you, but because the food is no longer here. A shallow dish of mealworms left in a shaded corner of the garden. A bowl of fresh water changed daily. These are what keep your robin in range during the months when everything else has disappeared. Not the feeder, not the seeds, the small, hidden things. And now I want to tell you about the moment that matters most. Because reason number 5 is the one that determines whether the robin that went quiet in June comes back in autumn or whether it finds somewhere else. Number 5. The return window. Between late September and mid-October, your robin does something that has no announcement. It comes back to the edge of your garden, not the center, not the feeder, not the branch where it used to sing. It comes to a high point, somewhere with a long view, and it observes. This is the territory assessment. European robins return to the same patch of ground at a rate of roughly 60 to 70% year after year, if the habitat supports them. That number is not about loyalty. It is about suitability. Your robin is not sentimental in the way we are. It is making a calculation. Is there dense evergreen cover for roosting on cold nights? Is there a reliable water source? Is the lawn soft enough after the summer that worms are accessible again? Is there a human who seems to understand the quiet rhythm of this place? That last part matters more than people realize. Robins have individual memory for humans. They recognize gait, silhouette, the way a particular person moves through a space. If you have been out in the garden through summer, even quietly, even without the feeder being right, your presence is part of the territory profile your robin carries in its mind. And when it comes back in September to make its decision, it will factor you in. The window is short, roughly 2 to 4 weeks. If you want your robin back, the things to do are simple, but they have to happen before that window closes. Plant or leave some dense ivy or an evergreen shrub, somewhere sheltered from wind. Put out a shallow dish of mealworms in a shaded spot, replace daily, change the water every morning, and be in the garden. Not dramatically, not with gestures, just be there. Move slowly, work quietly. Let it see that this is still a place that recognizes it, because in the end, the question your robin is asking when it stands on that high branch in late September is not whether you missed it. It is asking whether the garden is worth coming back to, and you still have time to answer that question. If you want to know exactly what your robin needs to see in those September weeks, the specific things that make a garden worth choosing for winter, I am going to cover that in detail in the next video. It is already recorded. It is right here. If this robin sounds familiar, if this garden and the quiet that has settled over it in summer feels like yours, subscribe to The Robin Files, a new story every week.